So Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is out on September 26th this month, so you don't have to wait much longer to get your hands on this game, but there is a lot of other people who have had a detailed length of experience with this game at this point in time, because since we last talked about this game, we of course had the PAX West demos, which it seemed like for the general public was pretty much limited to 15 minutes of gameplay. We also had Nintendo launch yet another 5-minute deep dive trailer, which if you're counting the initial reveal trailer, we've basically had close to 15 total minutes of footage of this game explaining all of its different mechanics and overviews of different parts of the world. But what has happened since then is a ton of different previews for media outlets have gone live, and these people were able to play the game for upwards of 80 minutes. And there is not only some general consensus of what this game has to offer in terms of its comparison to a Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom experience merged in there somewhere with a more classic 2D linear Zelda experience and those type of claims, but also some new general progression details that we can walk through so you kind of know roughly how you're going to start this game off when you unlock sword fighter mode specifically. And if you want to go into this game completely spoiler free, you will want to avoid this video because we will be uncovering some of the early progression of the game towards the back half of it, but we're going to get on the same page with all of that. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And I want to first tackle the roundup of previews that you can find over on Nintendo Life, where they actually have some of the kind of summary quotes that a bunch of different media outlets have put out about this game, and it can probably give you somewhat of an idea of what to go off of when you're thinking about, is this going to play like a more traditional 2D linear Zelda? What about Zelda and her abilities? Is this more Tears of the Kingdom style where you can really solve any puzzle however you want? And just how big and meaningful are the dungeons and the boss fights in this game? This will give you a good idea of what to expect with all of that. You can first see Nintendo Life's direct quote themselves, which says, "We left wanting more, wishing we could stay on and progress further than we were allowed, wishing we could take a copy home and start playing around with everything. We even wanted to replay a lot of what we'd already done because we knew there would be other ways we could have done things, and because the game doesn't really care how you solve something as long as you solve it." Mashable had this to say, "Echoes of Wisdom is a hybrid between what Zelda used to be and what Zelda is now. In other words, it seems to be taking the more structured puzzle-based overworld and dungeon design from old Zelda games and giving players a mechanical toolset more akin to the last two comparatively free-form entries, Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild." The Verge says it feels like Nintendo supercharged the classic top-down Zelda formula by infusing it with many of the franchise's cleverest innovations. It's not exactly an open world or classic Zelda, but something new, and it's a perfect fit for the princess. Destructoid says the wait for its September 26th launch date is now more difficult. So far, the Tri-Rod is a brilliant idea for a Zelda-led Odyssey. Using it to tactically solve puzzles and fight enemies felt natural and engaging. Polygon says The Legend of Zelda's Echoes of Wisdom may not have the gargantuan scope of recent 3D Zelda games, but it does appear to have similarly creative gameplay and player flexibility. It plays like a classic Legend of Zelda game, though pairing old school puzzle solving and dungeon crawling with ingenuity, resulting in a magical combination of styles. Zelda's first solo adventure already feels like a winner. And finally, Go Nintendo had this to say, "Echoes of Wisdom now lets our imaginations run wild in a 2D setting in ways never before experienced, and how could you not be truly thrilled by that?" So clearly you can see everything is overwhelmingly positive around this game. Now to touch on just a couple negative points that are not in these summaries, but that I have seen brought up online, has to do with the performance of the game, which if you played Zelda A Link's Awakening, the remake from 2019 on the Switch, you're no stranger to kind of the game chugging out of nowhere and really having a slower frame rate that is a noticeable dip at times, but it didn't seem to be a consistent problem that really affected all aspects of the game. Well, it seems like here it's maybe less dramatic and less noticeable in terms of it really chugging and slowing down, but there are moments that many have reported even in these first 80 minutes of gameplay experience that yeah, you are going to notice some frame dips and you are going to notice the Nintendo Switch struggling a little bit. Just kind of adds to that conversation of that we are ready for more powerful hardware from the current family family of systems that we have today, which has the Tegra X1 from 2015, and it launched in the Switch in 2017. So yes, this game looks truly beautiful, but it will struggle to get there in certain aspects. The other thing that is more of a negative online that I'm seeing coming up is kind of a learning curve around Zelda's combat abilities, because you will see a top-down 2D Zelda and immediately want to start swinging your sword or guarding your attacks with the shield, and that is not how you get to play this game. However, that will become an option or a tool that you will have for a brief moment, but you really do have to learn how to use the various different echoes that you've acquired throughout the game, and that is truly your offensive option to progress throughout this title. That means you're summoning in enemies. That means you're maybe summoning in a rock and just straight up throwing it at an enemy. It means that while the puzzles may be very enjoyable, there might be a slight feeling of frustration with the combat if you want to default back to your sword and shield tactics, and it definitely turns into something of a learning curve that could maybe turn some players off, at least out of the gate, as it does seem like the general consensus is once you start to learn enough echoes and really build out your arsenal of what you're going to be using, that becomes much less of an issue, and you will start to get the groove of how this game wants you to play it. The last gripe I've seen mentioned online, which we will briefly mention, is that as you build out your echoes, and you do have a number of them to choose from, it does seem to be something of a cumbersome menu, as IGN in their final preview pointed out that there are some options to filter them by, like your most used. There is interestingly no favorites list, which I think should be a thing when you're talking about scrolling through a number of different echoes, and I'm assuming there's some that they did not outline, but basically like you can probably filter by enemies or by material types and things like that to kind of help make it a little bit less of a hassle to scroll through everything. But if you are trying to summon in echoes at a moment's notice, you are at some point in the game going to have truly a ton of options to scroll through, and that can maybe feel a little bit cumbersome. I like the most frequently used because I'm pretty sure that by the end of the game you might hone in on a few different go-to ones that, as long as those are always readily accessible and available, it might feel that much more seamless. Now, in terms of some of the early progression of the game and what we've learned, and this would definitely tie into a little bit of the spoiler territory, so you are welcome to click off the video if you want zero gameplay spoilers, but we do know that initially, shortly after the game is starting off, from an opening cutscene where you are playing as Link, by the way, that has been confirmed. You have his sword, shield, and bow all readily available, and I'm assuming you're playing through that intro encounter with Ganon that we saw in the very first reveal trailer. Well, from there you're going into the Princess Zelda and prisoner section, where she has to essentially escape out of prison because the imposter Hyrule King has indeed ordered her to be locked up and potentially executed. Zelda is very much wanted, but the imposter King of Hyrule, of course, is not the real King of Hyrule, and that's going to be a storyline point in and of itself. But it seems like as you progress from there and free yourself away from that, you do have kind of an open section of the beach to go through, and you will ultimately come to your first dungeon, which will probably be something served as the more tutorial style dungeon, where it's a lot easier in difficulty, but it's still kind of teaching you a lot of the different gameplay mechanics. And at some point you will encounter that Shadow Link, which actually closed out the third trailer, and so we know that that Shadow Link encounter actually happens very early on. It is not clear if it happens as a reoccurring thing in different dungeons, but you're going to learn Sword Fighter form very early on within the first dungeon, and once you beat Shadow Link, you will have that Sword Fighter ability. However, we also know from the overview trailer explaining that it's not something you can readily use whenever you want, but rather you will have to recharge it. But it is very obvious that you will be able to level it up, so it will probably last longer and be a stronger form as you continue to level it up. We don't know exactly how it's leveled at this point in time, but I'm sure that will be revealed at a later date. And it does seem that the previews kind of end when you beat the final boss of that dungeon and maybe get out just a little bit further than that, but that's really about all the hands-on footage that many have about this game right now and what they're able to share their thoughts about. And from there, we're going to have to wait until the September 26th release date, or closer to, when the review embargoes are lifted, and I'm sure there will be a ton more to talk about. But at that point in time, we may touch on a few big pieces of information here and there. I still want to go into this game relatively spoiler free. I don't mind learning about the beginning of the game, but once we start talking about later game surprises and story elements, I'm going to go in the dark myself. So that's where I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video. How do you feel about the general consensus of this being kind of that perfect mix between the Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild open idea type of gameplay, where you get to solve puzzles how you want and you have something of a more open path ahead of you, but also retaining that more linear style dungeon progression, puzzle focused gameplay, and a big focus on boss fights at the end of those dungeons, heart pieces returning, and finding a boss key in every dungeon to ultimately take out the main boss. Like, are you excited to see a lot of those traditional elements return in this top-down 2D Zelda game? And if you have to pick a more favorite style for Zelda, whether that be classic linear progression Zelda from the 2D and early 3D era games, or the more recent Breath and Tears type of games, what do you personally prefer? So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.